are tons of exotics in Destiny 2, over 100, and even more ways to build each and every one. But some exotics are better than others. Or are they?
Let's make a build with every single one at a time. This is Destiny Builds A to Z. So, jumping into the build here, ACD Feedback Fence states, melee hits grant armor charge, and you take less melee damage while you have armor charge. Taking melee damage causes you to emit a burst of damaging arc energy that jolts targets, consuming your armor charge and dealing more damage based on the number of stacks consumed. So this is going to be the trigger for our whole build. For our subclass, we're going with Strand. We only have one option with Blade Fury for our super. For our abilities, we're going to go with Rally Barricade. This is just a shorter cooldown. You could actually go with Towering Barricade if you prefer, and harder content, sometimes it is nice to have the full cover. Strafe Lift is my jump option. You guys can choose whichever you would like here. I just prefer this. We only have one melee option, Frenzy Blade. However, it is helping this build by having 3 charges at base. We're going with the Grapple Grenade here, mainly because it can count as a melee, which is going to be another core part of this build. And the Threadling Grenade, as well as the Shackle Grenade, can be helpful if you don't want to use this, but it is counting as a whole additional melee charge, so it's like we have 4 charged melees instead of just the 3. For our aspects, we have Banner of War, where defeating a target with a melee attack, finisher, or sword will raise a Banner of War that pulses with energy, periodically healing nearby allies and increasing melee and sword damage. Targets defeated by you and nearby allies charge the banner, increasing the speed of its pulses. This is going to increase your damage for your melee, as well as give you some healing and sustainability. The reason why we like this so much for this particular build as well is that you don't actually have to get close, and that's because of our other aspect, Flesh It Storm. While sliding, activate your charged melee ability to leap into the air, knocking nearby targets away and dealing damage. While airborne, activate your charged melee again to launch a cluster of damaging, unraveling projectiles. Repeatedly activating melee will chain additional throws. So this is the key part of our whole build here. Because this sends out a whole bunch of damaging, unraveling projectiles, it's going to make it so that we're actually getting more armor charge than just 1 per hit with our ACD Feedback Fence. And because of this, we'll be able to proc Banner of War, even though it's from range. So we can remain in safety and gain our main survivability tool without having to leave cover. For our fragments, we have Thread of Generation. Dealing damage generates grenade energy. Reason why we need this is so we can keep our grenade uptime without having to really spec into it in any other way except for 1 fragment slot being put into this. Thread of Fury. Damaging targets with a tangle grants melee energy. This is going to make it so that when we throw our tangles at enemies or just shoot them, we'll generate more melee energy, and this is just going to keep the cycle going, because all we care about on this build is getting our melee back. For our 3rd fragment slot, we're going to go with Thread of Transmutation. While you have Woven Mail, Weapon Final Blows create a tangle. It's going to make it so that while we're killing stuff, and we have Woven Mail nearly all the time from all the orbs that we're creating, we'll have tangles to throw and use with our Thread of Fury. Thread of Warding. Picking up an orb of power grants Woven Mail. This is just making it so we have a consistent, nice, easy source of Woven Mail and some damage resist. For our build synergy chart, we all start with the melee, which, as you can see, has attached to it the ACD Feedback Fence, as well as the Flesh's Storm, as well as Heavy Handed, which we'll get into a little bit later for our mod section, where we're going to be generating orbs via our melee. We have 3 charges of this melee, which will get us over to our melee kickstart mod, which has attached to it a charged up mod, which is ×2 of those. So that's leading on over into the melee energy returned per stack of armor charge at 44%. So with 3 melees, we'll get a total of 132% return after using 3 melees. And by that time, because we're getting over 100%, we'll now have another melee to use, which when we use that, that's 176% return, With the passive regen as well as Banner of War and other things going on, we will have 5 melees that we can use in a row from base every single time. Now, this will lead with our chart here into the melee section, where you can see that with Banner of War, that's going to lead into our fragment of Threat of Warding, where when you pick up an Orb of Power, that'll grant Woven Mail, and when you get Woven Mail, that'll lead into Tangle Creation with the other fragment, and with Tangle Creation we'll be able to throw our Tangle and we'll get our melee back. So it just creates a nice synergistic loop where all of our stuff is just leading back to more and more melees. Then the reason why we have the grapple grenade up in the top left is that when you use the grapple and you smack something after using the grapple, you'll actually make sure that you proc again all of these same mods, because it will count as a melee. ACD feedbacks will also count this as a melee, and you'll get armor charge for having used it. So every single part of our kit is now lending itself back into melee with ACD feedback fence. No melee build can be complete without Monte Carlo, of course, where it states, dealing damage with this weapon reduces your melee cooldown and grants a chance to fully charge your melee ability with each kill. It also has Markov Chain. This weapon gains increased damage from melee kills and kills with this weapon. Melee kills grant ammo for this weapon. On the Catalyst, it has at 5 stacks of Markov Chain. You can hold your reload button, and that'll switch your melee attack to Monte Carlo's bayonet. Landing a bayonet melee hit grants melee energy. I wouldn't suggest using the Catalyst too much with this, but the rest of this, just on hits, being able to get you your melee energy back, makes this whole build feel very, very consistent, and you'll just have that loop ongoing. This isn't entirely necessary if you would rather let the charges happen recurringly naturally, but it's just a great option, and it's already a kinetic exotic weapon, so you'll be generating plenty of heavy ammo as well, and it hits pretty hard, particularly because we're getting Markov Chain times 5 so frequently. For our mod setup, on our helmet, we have a hands-on mod. This is going to work also for our grapple grenade for generating super energy for our melee kills. Then we also have a kinetic siphon mod. We have 2 of these to make it so that when we generate an orb with our Monte Carlo, it'll provide more super energy. On our gauntlets, we have a heavy-handed. This is going to make it so that all of our melee final blows do also provide an orb. Then we have melee kickstart. This is when your melee energy is fully expended, your armor charge is consumed, and you gain melee energy for each armor charge used. On our chest, we only have 1 armor resistant mod, but we'll still be fine because we have the Woven Mail as well as our Banner of War. We have 2 charged up mods. This is ensuring that we can carry even more stacks of armor charge, giving us more melee energy back every time we use it. This is what's kind of enabling that 5 melee streak that we can do. On our boots, we have Battle Already. Your health begins to regenerate immediately after picking up an Orb of Power. This is just adding a little bit of survivability. Invigoration reduces melee cooldown each time you pick up an Orb of Power. This is going to make it so that we have our melee back extremely quickly, because we're generating orbs with everything we do anyways, so it's just keeping that cycle returning. Stacks on stacks. It says picking up an Orb of Power grants you 1 additional stack of armor charge. However, Community Insight has revealed that this actually makes it so that every time you gain a stack of armor charge from any source, it'll count as 2. This is also critical to make sure that when we land a melee hit with our ACD feedback fence, it's going to give us 2 armor charge for every 1 that we would normally receive. On our class item, we have Powerful Attraction. Automatically collects nearby orbs of power when you activate your class ability. This is just a convenient thing, so that when we do use our class ability, it's still providing a function for us. 1-2 Finisher. Finishers restore melee abilities. Consumes 3 or more stacks of armor charge. I know it consumes 3 armor charges, however, because of every melee we do is giving us 5 armor charges, this is just a net positive for us. Then we have a Reaper mod. Shortly after using your class ability, your next weapon final blow spawns an Orb of Power. This is just making it so that we'll also create an Orb of Power after using our class ability. Okay, let's hop into the gameplay. So as you can see, we have no armor charges, and we can start out with a grenade, and we'll actually get 5 armor charges right there with our grapple. So now we already have the armor charges, and we can go right into our melee swipes. You can get so many back in a row, and now we have our Banner of War, going, and you can see just how much damage the Flesh of the Storm actually does to the red bars. I know that this isn't insane content right now, but it is still higher level content than me because it's Red Sword. And with the Woven Mail and the Banner of War, we're pretty much immortal. Well, not entirely, of course, but pretty close to it. And you can just see how much damage these things do, because you can take out half the health of a Colossus like that. You can go in with your melee, not your melee, your grapple, and then you can put up your shield here if you just want to kind of set up a little position. The nice thing about Monte Carlo is that when we're at a point when we don't really have too many of our melee charges back, we can just shoot some stuff and we'll already back up to full charges, and we can go right back into having some fun with these swipes. Just kind of getting bottled around here, but it just completely obliterates all of those guys all at once, and then we can just kind of go right back into there. And that'll also, because it's technically using our melee, but it's not using our melee, we'll get some melee energy back off of our grapple. This is seriously one of the best builds that I feel like is fun to play as well. Like, it's not boring, it's a lot of excitement happening. There's a lot going on, everything's kind of getting blown up in green. And you also have a lot of survivability along with it. And then for any beefier target, you can just use a different weapon or something like that. But just wanted to show off the synergy a little bit. And the main reason I didn't show off the artifact, by the way, in the previous portion of the video, is because we're not actually utilizing any of it. So this is just the synergy part. There's going to be some higher tier gameplay, a few clips of some expert Onslaught. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.